Hi, welcome back. So, it's been a week, and it's probably because the feasts are coming, our appointed times, and it's just been a week. So, I had completely recorded all of this week's week 28 Metzora last week, and the file got corrupted and it never was able to upload to YouTube. So I'm going to redo it now. For some reason, Yah wants me to do this a couple of times, and I think that's awesome. We had a conversation, my friend Angelina and I had a conversation about this portion, and we recorded it. It's on the channel. And so if you want to go take a look at that, just about how life and death are in the tongue, and how we are spiritual lepers when we backbite and gossip, telling stories about people. So, all right, let's start with prayer, because I have been running all week, and my last obligation just got handled, and now I can rest. And today's preparation day, and I have 2 Sabbaths this week. So for those that are following this calendar, and I'm not sure what calendar is, I think just the basic Jewish calendar, but we are celebrating Passover this next week. So we'll have 2 Sabbaths, which I am very much ready for. Rusty and I are both ready for 2 Sabbaths, and we're really looking forward to, because this is our first year. I mean, I learned about the Sabbaths for the past 2 years, or the Moedim, the appointed times, the past 2 years, but just, and observe them as much as I could, Rusty not really being on board, or understanding, or either of us understanding any of it fully, to be able to, So this time it's exciting because Rusty is participating. He's reading the word. He's praying over us. He's helping to prepare. And it's really beautiful. And he's even taking time off work to take a Sabbath rest. So we're excited this year. We're excited to really observe the appointed times. So, Father, you know all things and where we're at, and if anyone else is like me, has just been really stretched this past week, we bring it all to you, and know that you are in control. We can take our thoughts captive and take a break and take a rest and come to you and come to your word. This is where we get filled back up, and that's I'm coming with an empty cup, wanting to get it filled up with your living water. So thank you so much for your word. Bless this time of reading. Bless those that hear it. And help us to prepare for your appointed times. Amen. Okay. So, a little teary. Take 2. So, Torah Portions, week 28, it's Metzora, which means leper. And if you're following off of last week's, where I had a lot of questions about, well, how is it in the house? How is it on the clothes? How is it? Learned so much. And maybe that's just it. I mean, I have spent so much time digging in and studying these portions, just because they seem like there's something that's just, way back in the day. And Leviticus, it's just you think it's so barbaric and so out of touch, because the slaughtering of the animals and all of the sacrifices, and it's repetitive, and and usually it's a really dry read that you just get through, to skim through until you get to something exciting happening. And instead, in doing the Torah portions, we're finding that you get to just dig up the small chunk that you do for the week. You just get to do some major mining, treasure hunting, digging for treasure through all of it, and where it is so pertinent for today. It is so useful for today and so applicable for today. So it is Leviticus 14:1 through 15:33. And then the Haftorah is Malachi 3:4 through 24, and Matthew 17:9 through 13. And this is a special Shabbat. It's Shabbat HaGadol, so tonight we begin our Sabbath, and it's a special Sabbath because it's the Sabbath before Passover, Pesach, which is coming this week. Some people are celebrating it on the 22nd. Some people are celebrating it on the 23rd. We are celebrating it on the 23rd. Right or wrong? It's what we're doing this year. To the best of our abilities. To the best of our ability, we are trying to walk in his ways and keep his Torah, his instructions. So, 14. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, "This shall be the Torah of the leper. For the day of his cleansing, he shall be brought to the priest." So in studying all of this, leprosy is a spiritual condition. It's leprosy, and I should have looked it up, but I didn't. The word, did I have it over here? Possibly. Yes. Metzora, the name of the name of this portion. Leprosy, it does not translate out to the leprosy illness that we know today, or have in our history. This is a spiritual condition that actually manifests in a physical death, almost rotting away into death, or death, because it makes you white like you'd be in death. And instead of going to get it treated, they have to go to the priest. And the only way for a leper to be healed is divine healing from Yahuwah. It's not something that can be healed. And then when they're healed, then they go through the cleansing process, or through the whole process, they go to the priest. And what it all is pointing to is Lashon Hara, evil speak. It's not what goes into a man's mouth, but what comes out of his mouth that defiles him. And it's evil speaking, gossip, slander, backbiting, manipulation. It's all is witchcraft, manipulation. And it ends up causing a rot in us, a death in us when we speak evil. And and that's a lot of why these past 2 weeks have been pretty intense, because actually about a month ago, the Father really started impressing upon my heart to not participate in gossip. And it's been a struggle to make boundaries, and bad habits of participating and listening and helping someone else chew on someone else's information. And it's just, I've been really convicted, and so I've had to try to separate myself, and I fail and I succeed, and I fail and I succeed. But it's a conscious working on every day, which is a beautiful thing. And the Holy Spirit's so involved in it because he's checking me out, check. Whenever I go to speak or guard my gates, when I'm not guarding, he set a guard up on my gates, and so before I speak or as I hear, I can pause and make that choice. This is not something I'm supposed to be involved in. I don't want spiritual leprosy. I don't want to be involved in gossip or slander or evil speak. And what we're learning, and I know I haven't even got into this, but where two or three witnesses, let a thing be established. I need to find, I found it and wrote it down, but I don't know where I put it. That verse is where, to judge someone, to have them, found guilty, they have to have two or three witnesses. And when two or three witnesses come together and testify on something, a judgment can be made on that. And when we're evil speaking about somebody, and someone even asked, well, where's the line? And this is just my opinion. If there's venom, when you're speaking about this person and there's venom, and it's there's a venom coming out about it. There's anger and bitterness and hatred and offense coming out with your words. That's Lashon Hara, that's evil speak. And that toxin that's coming out is just not only going to infect you, it's going to infect everything you touch. And it ripples out, and there's no end to it, because it just can keep traveling from person to person to person, infecting other people, causing spiritual leprosy, Metzora. So it's been a real in the trenches processing the past 2 weeks with him. Just like I said, about a month ago, he convicted me, and then we came to these Torah portions, 2 weeks later, and it's like, okay, isn't y'all beautiful that he, is so timely, and it's right before the appointed days, a feast of unleavened bread, where we search ourselves, our homes, for leaven, which represents sin. We reflect and get internal and spend time with Yah about where we are sinning, missing the mark, where we are being lawless, because the definition of sin is lawlessness. The translation, it translates to lawlessness. So where am I being lawless? Leaven is pointing to lawlessness. Where am I not following his statutes? Where am I falling short, missing the mark? And so and that's next week with unleavened bread, and just being introspective, and actually this is something we should be doing continuously. It's living a lifestyle of repentance and intention and connection in covenant with the Creator. Someone that I follow, Bear Independent, he made and I just love it. It says the Torah, his instructions. That word Torah seems to really offend a lot of people, or just maybe it confuses people. It's the first 5 books of the Bible. It's the foundation. It's what everything else is built on. It's the instructions. Torah equals instructions, guide, manual. And those first 5 books teach us how to people, and people well, to where we behave on his standards and act on his standards and go out into the world reflecting and shining our light on him. So, okay. So that kind of sets a whole thing for this leprosy, and we don't want And we all are spiritual lepers because we all are guilty. We all are guilty, of letting things come out of our mouth that shouldn't. And I am a chief sinner on this one, man. I am bad. I've got a nasty tongue. And all of you that know me personally will attest to it. I can be mean. And that's why I'm so emotional. I'm in a time of deep repentance. Because I have sinned horribly in this area. So, and it took His word to shine a light on that. His word is a lamp, and His Torah is a light. It's a light to our path. Guides us on our way. The first 5 books, the instructions, are our guide. Okay, pull it together. Whew. And part of me is like, oh no, we need to start this one over, but no, we don't. This is my reality. And if we're going to be doing this journey together, you're going to be part of this reality, because I'm not going to try to clean it up or make it pretty. I am who I am. I'm real. I'm learning. I'm learning to walk in Him. So, all right. Since I only got the first sentence out, let's start over. My gosh. So Metzora, Leviticus 14:1. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, "This shall be the Torah of the leper for the day of his cleansing. He shall be brought to the priest." I did not get far. And the priest shall go out of the camp, and the priest shall look and see if the leprosy is healed in the leper. So here's a leper that's had leprosy and was divinely healed. And he starts going, but see, a leper can't go inside the camp because he's unclean. He has leprosy, and it's contagious. When you gossip, it's contagious. When you slander, it's contagious. But the priest, Yeshua, our high priest, he walks out of the camp and meets us halfway. And every time Jesus, Yahusha, I prefer to use his more Hebrew name, since that's what he was called, well, close as I know. But anyway, him being our high priest, and every time he healed the leper, he was moved with compassion, and then he healed. And, here's the priest coming out to meet halfway. So then the priest shall command and shall take for him who is to be cleansed 2 live and clean birds, and cedar wood and scarlet and hyssop. And this just points to Yahusha, to Jesus, to the crucifixion, the wood and the hyssop. And hyssop's also for cleansing. The scarlet thread, scarlet wool, and the priest shall command, and he shall slay one of the birds in an earthen vessel over running water, living running water. And here's such a beautiful picture of our Messiah. Let him take the live birds and the cedar wood and the scarlet and the hyssop, and dip them and the live bird in the blood of the bird that was slain over the running water. So there was an innocent dove was slain, and its blood was poured out, and the live dove is dipped in the blood of the sacrificed dove. It just points to our Messiah so strongly, and then that bird is set free. And he shall sprinkle it 7 times on him who is to be cleansed from the leprosy, and shall pronounce him clean, and shall let the live bird loose in an open field. And he who is to be cleansed shall wash his garments, and shall shave off all of his hair, and wash himself in water, baptism, and shall be clean. Then after that he comes back into the camp, but shall stay outside of his tent 7 days. There's so many sevens. And on the 7th day, it shall be that he shaves all the hair of his head and his beard and his eyebrows, and even all the hair he shaves off. And he shall wash his garments and wash his body in water, and shall be clean. And on the 8th day, the 8th day, the last great day, the day that the millennia that we join him for eternity. The day is 1,000 years, 1,000 years, this is a day. Anyway, the 8th day, he takes male lambs, perfect ones, and 1 ewe lamb, a year old, a perfect one, and 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil as a grain offering, and 1 log of oil. And I think we determined that a log is a pint of oil. And log of oil. And the priest who is cleansing shall present the man who is to be cleansed with these offerings before Yahuwah at the door of the tent of appointment. And the priest shall take 1 male lamb and bring it as a guilt offering, and the log of oil, and wave them as a wave offering before Yahuwah. And he shall slay the lamb in the place where he slays the sin offering and the ascending offering, in the set apart place, for the guilt offering, like the sin offering, belongs to the priest. It is most set apart. And the priest shall take some of the blood of the guilt offering, and the priest shall put it on the tip of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of the right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. And that was one of my questions. It's like, and from different things that I've read and studied out is, I'm sure there's many things that it points to, but the right ear, is a gate, what we allow in our gates. The hand is we use to work and to do, so everything we touch, and our foot is everywhere we go, everywhere we tread, everywhere we walk. So it's an anointing, and he'll dip his finger in the oil. So here he's first is the blood. And the priest shall take some of the log of oil and pour it in the palm of his own left hand, and the priest shall dip his right finger in the oil, this is his left hand, and shall sprinkle some of the oil with his finger 7 times before Yahuwah. And of the rest of the oil in his hand, the priest puts some of the tip on his right ear, on who is to be cleansed, and on his thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot, and on the blood of the guilt offering. So the blood's there, and he puts the oil on top. And the rest of the oil that it is in the priest's left hand, he puts on the head of him who is to be cleansed. And the priest shall make atonement for him before Yahuwah. And you think about it, he puts the oil on there, and this man's completely shaven. He's already shaved, so the oil just runs down his skin because he doesn't have eyebrows or anything. He shaved them all off. And just an anointing. And the priest shall make a sin offering and make an atonement for him who is to be cleansed from his uncleanness. Then afterwards he slays the ascending offering, and the priest shall offer the ascending offering and the grain offering on the slaughter place, and the priest shall make atonement for him, and he shall be clean. But if he is poor and unable to afford it, then he shall take 1 male lamb as a guilt offering to be waved and to make atonement for him, and 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil as a grain offering. Yahuwah is so our Father is just so, he cares about it. Doesn't matter, he's no respecter of persons, and he makes it possible for anyone in any station of life to be able to do this. And 2 turtle doves and 2 young pigeons, such as he is able to afford, and one shall be a sin offering and the other an ascending offering, and he shall bring them to the priest on the 8th day for his cleansing to the door of the tent of appointment before Yahuwah. That's just all that. The 8th day, there's so much there. When Mary and Joseph were bringing Yahusha Jesus, it was for the 8th day, for him to be circumcised and for them to give their offering. And they were poor. They had, the doves. So everybody thinks the Old Testament is old and past and gone. And these older books, these are the foundation, and they point to, when you go and you read the New Testament, the Gospels, everything after Yahusha, this all comes in, because this is what they were doing. They were walking out Torah. They were walking out their instructions when they were going to the temple to present him, and present their firstborn. That's so on the 8th day. So anyway, and the priest shall take the lamb of the guilt offering, the log of oil, and the priest shall wave them as a wave offering before Yahuwah, and he shall slay the lamb of the guilt offering, and the priest shall take some of the blood of the guilt offering and put it on the tip of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. And then the priest pours some of the oil into the palm of his hand, his own left hand, and the priest shall sprinkle with his right finger some of the oil that in his left hand 7 times before Yahuwah. And the priest shall put some of the oil that is in his hand on the tip of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of the right hand, and on the big toe of the right foot, on the place of the blood of the guilt offering. And the rest of the oil that is in the priest's hand he puts on the head of him who is to be cleansed, and to make atonement for him before Yahuwah. And he shall prepare one of the turtle doves or young pigeons, such as he is able to afford. That which he is able to afford, the one is a sin offering, and the other is a sending offering with the grain offering. And the priest shall make atonement for him who is to be cleansed before Yahuwah. This is the Torah for one who has had an infection. Okay, so that was the instructions for a leper for the day of his cleansing. Those were his instructions. That's what, if you have leprosy, that's what you need to do. You need to go let the priest look you over to make sure that you are healed and there is no leprosy, active leprosy, meaning you've learned and you have tempered your tongue, and then you make an offering, and a sin offering and an atonement, a burnt offering. And so this, sorry, I did lose my spot again. This is the Torah, the instructions for the one who had an infection of leprosy, who is unable to afford for his cleansing. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying, when you come up into the land, so that's everything we just read. Okay, so when you come up into the land of Canaan, which I am giving you as a possession, and I put a plague of leprosy in the house, in the land of your possessions. This is something that the Father puts on us, and he puts on us so that we will be miserable and uncomfortable in it, and we'll turn from it, and we'll seek him, and we'll figure out what the problem is and work with him to cleanse ourselves of it. He puts a plague of leprosy on the house, in the land of your possessions. Then shall the one who owns the house, now so that here's the thing with the house, here's the one who owns the house, and inform the priest, saying, it seems to me that there is some plague in the house. Now, in doing research, this is something similar to, I would liken it to mold. You've got, and mold causes illness, and it's gotten into the walls of your house. So you didn't guard your gates. And now mold has gotten into the house. A plague, okay, what did he call it? A plague in the house. And the priest shall command, and they shall empty the house before the priest goes in to look at the plague, so that all that is in the house is not made unclean. And after that the priest goes in to look at the house, and he shall look at the plague and see if the plague is on the walls of the house, with sunken spaces, greenish or red, like an algae, maybe even. I know, like, yeah, like if stuff gets damp and wet, there can be like an algae, which appears to be deep in the wall. Then the priest shall go out of the house to the door of the house and shut up the house for 7 days. So got everything removed. The house is completely empty, and they're going to just like let it be, see if it dries out and goes away. And the priest shall come again on the 7th day. Here goes 7 again. And look and see if the plague has spread on the walls of the house. And the priest shall command, and they shall remove the stones. So look and see if the plague has spread on the walls of the house. That's he's going to check. Then the priest shall command, and they shall remove the stones with the plague in them, and they shall throw them outside of the city into an unclean place. We want, whatever's been infected by this needs to be taken outside so it doesn't infect anyone else. And they shall take other stones and put them in the place of those stones, and take other mortar and plaster the house. And if the plague comes back and it breaks out in the house after he has removed the stones, after he has scraped the house, and after it is plastered, then the priest shall come and look and see if the plague has spread in the house. It is an active leprosy in the house, active Metzora in the house. It is unclean. And he shall break down the house, its stones and its timber, and all the plaster of the house, and he shall bring them outside the city to an unclean place. There's no salvaging it. You just got to tear it all down and get it out from around everyone else so it doesn't infect everyone else. And he who goes into the house all the days while it is shut up becomes unclean until evening. And he who lies down in the house has to wash his garments, and he who eats in the house has to wash his garments. However, if the priest indeed comes and looks at it and sees that the plague has not spread in the house after the house has been plastered, then the priest shall pronounce the house clean, because the plague is healed. And to cleanse the house, he shall take 2 birds, a cedar wood, and scarlet and hyssop, and he shall lay one of the birds in an earthen vessel over running water, and shall take the cedar wood and the hyssop and the scarlet and the live bird, and dip them in the blood of the slain bird and in the running water, and shall sprinkle the house 7 times. He shall thus cleanse the house with the blood of the bird and the running water and the live bird, and with the cedar wood and with the hyssop and with the scarlet. And he shall let the live bird loose outside the city in an open field, and shall make atonement for the house, and it shall be clean. This is the Torah for any infection of leprosy and eruption, and for leprosy of a garment and of a house, and for a dwelling, and for a scab, and for a bright spot, to teach when it is unclean and when it is clean. This is the Torah of leprosy. So, and that's, we go 15 to 1533. Okay, so with these are so rich, and they're teaching us what our Creator deems clean and unclean, not what we think or have been taught by some human what's clean and unclean, and what their interpretations or thought are. He is lining it all, and no wonder people are distracted away from really diving in and taking a look at this, because this causes us to have to be introspective, and it causes a circumcision of the heart. It causes us to cut out parts of us that are unclean. And not everybody comes to that point. Everyone comes at a different time. But I believe that the Creator's waking up people and bringing them back into covenant, into his instructions. And that's how I feel. Over the past couple of years, as I've been searching all this out, it's come alive. It's what I always had thought that it had expected that Christianity would have been. And I'm really going through a lot of processing with, and I'll do a whole nother video on that, about, my 40 years of, being a Christian, and what I learned. And then when Yahuwah, he told me a couple of years ago that I needed to go back to the beginning and unlearn everything that I had ever learned in the 40 years of being a Christian. And it's not that, I'm not hating on Christianity and being a Christian. What I realized, have learned, is that what I was taught was what the people that I placed myself under, the pastors, what they were taught by people that they placed themselves under. But in researching the history, it goes back to the church fathers, pretty much Martin Luther, and then, the church fathers that, have come since, which then, originated from the Catholic Church, Rome, but doesn't go back to this. It was altered there. And so there's nothing, I'm not hating on Christianity. It's just, there's more to it that goes back to the Hebrew people that Yahuwah made all these covenant and promise with, that we are part of as we're grafted into covenant with him as sojourners, as Gentiles that are grafted in. And it just, I got off on a tangent, but it just, that I'm sorry. I will get back on track because I've already gone long. So 15. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel, say to them, when any man has a discharge of his from his flesh, his discharge is unclean." This one's fun. And this is his uncleanness in regard to his discharge. Now, I always thought, I think that's any kind of discharge. It's not specific here. It's just a discharge from his flesh, a pussy wound, that's infected, stuff like that. So, and so this is his uncleanness in regard to his discharge, whether his flesh runs with his discharge or his flesh is stopped up by his discharge. I guess that means if it's oozing or if it's like a boil, something that's stopped up. It is his uncleanness. Any bed becomes unclean on which he who has the discharge lies, and any object on which he sits becomes unclean. Bear always says infectious disease protocol. This is just infectious disease protocol here. All of this. It's just stay clean. Wash yourself. Stay away from things that are pussy. Clean yourself if you've been near it. So it's just infectious disease protocol. It's so basic and usable for today. So anyone who touches his bed has to wash his garments and shall bathe in water and be unclean until evening. And he who sits on any object on which he who has the discharge sat has to wash his garments, and he shall bathe in the water and be unclean till evening. I used to think that unclean meant that they were damned and, they're dirty and, unforgivable. Unclean just means that you've touched something that needs to be washed off, and then until evening, and then the next day you're good to go. It's not that you're banished. And when he who has the discharge spits on him, this one always gets to me. It's like, why? I guess spitting on somebody was a thing, but anyway, that it would make it into the Bible, seriously. But and when he who has the discharge spits on him who is clean, then he shall wash his garments, and he shall bathe in the water and be unclean till evening. Any saddle on which he who sits has a discharge rides becomes unclean, and whoever touches any of that which was under him is unclean until evening. And he who is carrying them up has to wash his garments and shall bathe in water and be unclean till evening. And anyone whom has his discharge touches without rinsing his hands in the water shall wash his garments and bathe in the water and be unclean till evening. And the earthen vessel which he who has the discharge touches has to be broken, because it's porous, it's clay. It can grow gross things in it. And every wooden vessel has to be rinsed in water. And when he who has a discharge is cleansed of his discharge, then he shall count for himself 7 days for his cleansing, and shall wash his garments, and shall bathe his flesh in running water, and be clean. And on the 8th day he takes for himself 2 turtle doves and 2 young pigeons, and shall come before Yahuwah to the door of tent of appointment, and shall give them to the priest. And the priest shall prepare them, the one as a sin offering, and the other as an ascending offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for him before Yahuwah because of his discharge. And when a man has an emission of semen, then he shall wash all his flesh in water, and be unclean until evening. And any garment and any leather on which there is semen shall also be washed with water, and be unclean until evening. This is just basic sanitation, sanitary. Let's stay clean and sanitary here. And when a woman lies with a man, and there is an emission of semen, they both shall bathe in water, and be unclean until evening. And when a woman has a discharge, and a discharge from her flesh is blood, she has to be in her separation for 7 days, and whoever touches her is unclean until evening. And whatever she lies on during her separation is unclean, and whatever she sits on is unclean. And anyone who touches her bed has to wash his garments, and shall bathe in water, and be unclean until evening. And whoever touches any object that she sat on has to wash his garments, and shall bathe in water, and be unclean till evening. And if it is on the bed or in any object on which she sits, when he touches it, he is unclean till evening. And if a man lies with her at all, and her monthly flow is on him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and any bed he lies on is unclean. And when a woman has a discharge of blood for many days, other than at the time of her monthly separation, or when she discharges beyond her usual time of monthly separation, all the days of her unclean discharge shall be as the day of her monthly separation. She's unclean. So while she's bleeding, she's unclean. Any bed on which she lies all the days of her discharge is to her as the bed of her monthly separation, and whatever she sits on is unclean, as the uncleanness of her monthly separation. And anyone who touches them is unclean, and shall wash his garments, and shall bathe in water, and be unclean until evening. But if she is cleansed of her discharge, then she shall count for herself 7 days, and after that she is clean. And on the 8th day she takes for herself 2 turtle doves, or 2 young pigeons, and shall bring them to the priest to the door of the tent of appointment. And the priest shall prepare one as a sin offering, and the other as an ascending offering. And the priest shall make atonement for her before Yahuwah for the discharge for her uncleanness. Thus ye shall separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, lest they die in their uncleanness, when they defile my dwelling place, which is in their midst. This is the Torah, the instructions, for the one who has a discharge, and for him who admits semen is unclean thereby, and for her who is sick in her monthly separation. I find that interesting. Sick, but I guess, she's not when we're on our monthly cycle, menstruating, we're not an optimum. We're not sick. I mean, I guess we've been raised, it's like, well, it's just a thing. We're not sick, but, you are losing blood, and it probably should be a time of resting, and, you're not optimum, so you're sick. Interesting. So for her who is sick in her monthly separation, and for the one who has a discharge, either man or woman, and for him who lies with an unclean woman. So that is the Torah portion. And now the Haftorah is Malachi. Hopefully I have it. Is that Malachi? Beautiful. Still saved. Malachi 3:4. Here we go. All right. Then shall the offering of Yehuda and Jerusalem, Judah and Jerusalem, be pleasant to Yahuwah, as in the days of old, as in former years. And I shall draw near to you for right ruling, and I shall be a swift witness against the practicers of witchcraft, and against adulterers, and against them that swear to falsehood, and against those who oppress the wage earner in his wages, and widows and the fatherless, and those who turn away a sojourner and do not fear me, said Yahuwah of hosts. For I am Yahuwah, and I shall not change. This is one of my favorite verses, sentences in the whole word, because right here, and this is what I could never reconcile. All my years of reading the Bible, I could never understand and reconcile why I would read where it said, these are my statutes forever for those born and those who are sojourning with you. And these are my statutes forever. And I could never reconcile because of this one sentence right here. For I am Yahuwah, I shall not change. So I just didn't understand why we weren't still doing all the things written in the back of the book. Because it says he doesn't change. That means he's still going by that. And why aren't we? That was just one of my things I could never, ever reconcile. So, for I am Yahuwah, I shall not change. And you, O sons of Jacob, shall not come to an end. For the days of your fathers, you have turned aside from my laws and did not guard them. Turn back to me, and I shall turn back to you. Isn't that beautiful? Turn back to me. Meet me halfway. Meet me halfway. And Yahuwah of hosts, said Yahuwah of hosts, but you said, in what shall we turn back? Would a man rob Elohim? Yet you are robbing me. But you said, in what have we robbed you? In tithe and the offering. You have cursed me with a curse, for you are robbing me. This nation, all of it, bring all of the tithes into the storehouse, and let there be food in my house, and prove me in this. Wait a minute, something just doesn't seem right here. I think I did the same thing before. So 4 through 24, I just wanted to make sure. And yeah, mine doesn't go to 24. That's right. Okay, so yeah. So anyway, and please prove me in this, says Yahuwah of hosts, whether I do not open for you the windows of heaven and shall pour out for you boundless blessings, and I shall rebuke the devourer. I've always loved that verse too. And I shall rebuke the devourer for you, so that it does not destroy the fruit of your ground, nor does the vine fail to bear fruit for you in the field, says Yahuwah of hosts. And all the nations shall call you blessed, for you shall be a land of delight, said Yahuwah of hosts. Your words have been strong against me, said Yahuwah, but you have said, what have we spoken against you? You have said, it is worthless to serve Elohim. And what did we gain when we guarded his charge, and when we walked as mourners before Yahuwah of hosts? And now we are calling the proud blessed, but only are the doers of wrongness built up. But they also try Elohim and escape. Then shall those who fear Yahuwah speak to one another, and Yahuwah listens and hears, and a book of remembrance be written before him of those who fear Yahuwah and those who think upon his name. His name. See, that's so important. His name, not his title. And they shall be mine, said Yahuwah of hosts, and on the day that I prepare a treasured possession, and I shall spare them as a man spares his own son who serves him. Then you shall again see the difference between the righteous and the wrong, the good, the clean and the unclean, the holy and the profane, between the one who serves Elohim and one who does not serve Elohim. Okay, through the whole thing. So mine goes to chapter 4 now, but in other Bibles it'll still be 3, and it'll go all the way to 24. For look, the day shall come, burning like a furnace, and all the proud and every wrongdoer shall be stubble. Those who walk in lawlessness will get burned up. And the day that shall come shall burn them up, says Yahuwah of hosts, which leaves to them neither root nor branch. But to you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness shall arise with healing in his wings, and you shall go out and leap for joy like calves from the stall. Sorry, just picturing little cows jumping after they get let out of the stall, and they kick their heels up, and it's a lot. They're just adorable. So anyway, and you shall trample on the wrongdoers, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet on the day that I do this, said Yahuwah of hosts. Remember the Torah of Moshe. Remember the instructions of Moses, my servant, which I commanded him in Horeb for all Israel. Laws and right rulings are instructions. See, I am sending you Eliah the prophet before the coming of the great and awesome day of Yahuwah. And he shall turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to the fathers, lest I come and strike the earth with utter destruction. So that is the Haftorah. And then, I'll pull it out. Okay. And then and this is for Shabbat HaGadol, which is the Sabbath before Passover. And then in the Gospels, it's Matthew, and I think I have it. Do I? I do. Matthew 17, 9 through 13. There it is. And as they were coming down from the mountain, Yahuwah commanded them, saying, do not mention the vision to anyone until the son of Adam is raised up. So they had just been up on the mountain, and Yahusha, Jesus, was, and I may have missed his name because I've got it in the little symbols, and I sometimes say the wrong word. But so and they were coming down from the mountain, and Yahusha commanded them, saying, do not mention the vision to anyone. So they'd been up on the mountain. He was transfigured, and Elijah and Moses came down, and Peter and John and the sons of Zebedee, John's brother, James maybe. Anyway, Andrew, one of them. They were there, but he's telling them now, they're coming down. They saw this vision, and he's saying, don't tell anyone. Don't mention the vision to anyone until the son of Adam is raised from the dead. So after his crucifixion and burial and then resurrection. And his taught ones, his disciples asked him, saying, why then do the scribes say that Eliyahu has to come first? And Yahuwah answered Yahushua answered and said to them, Eliyahu is indeed coming first and shall restore all. But I say to you that Eliyahu Elijah, I think, pretty sure, has already come, and they did not recognize him, but did to him whatever they wished. In this way, the son of Adam, who is also about to suffer by them. Then his taught ones understood that he had spoken to them about Yohanan the Immerser, John the Baptist. So this is week 28, Metzora, the leper. I hope it blessed you. Thank you for being, walking along this journey with me. I'd love to hear your thoughts or comments below. Do the YouTube stuff, I guess. Subscribe, like, share it with your friends. If it blessed you, that's my goal, is to be a blessing, to be a useful tool for his kingdom. So I love his word, and I want to share that love with everyone else. So let's go out with a prayer. Your Father Yah, thank you so much. I pray that you work the technology and all of this, and that this file is not corrupted, and that it will upload and it will be available. And I'm so thankful that you've answered my prayer and given me a love and a passion, a hunger and a thirst for your word, so that I can share that passion and love with others and start a wildfire of people who crave to consume your word. Thank you, my King. In your Son, Yahusha's glorious name. Amen. Amen. All right, get this thing uploaded. I'll see you later.